So, breonnas law was just passed in Louisville, Kentucky. And a lot of y'all are looking at it and going, man, that's about no knock raids. It's not just no knock raids, it's even better than that. All of us, all of us, Native Americans, white people, homeless people, black people, we've all asked for the same things for many, many, many years. I went through and I typed up body cams. That's it. Body cams. I literally, before Natalie was killed, I have at least 100 posts that include the words body cam. And I've been posting those on my Facebook for about the last 10 minutes. After Natalie was killed, people were destroying evidence. And at first, I didn't know how to make it private so that people couldn't do that. And that's first of all. But second of all, a body cam, someone named Miss Spooks just typed, what's a body cam? A body cam, that's a body camera. The police here, they get body cams so that they can record every interaction. It records both the sound and the video. And that's what we need. In most of these cases of people being in situations where they're vulnerable and they have to depend on people who have a power position, they are too easy to victimize, especially those who are homeless or considered mentally ill or children. The largest cross-section of the homeless population is former foster children. The most victimized people in America are foster children and homeless people. The largest cross-section of the jail and prison system is actually former foster kids. And the second largest cross-section is homeless people. I was locked up with a lot of black people in areas where you hardly ever see black people even. And nearly all those black people were picked up homeless. Homeless. Now they get to add to the statistic of blackness and homelessness. In Boulder, Colorado, black people are arrested and incarcerated per capita at a 5-to-1 ratio over their white counterparts. Per capita. That means socioeconomically and per portion of the population. Black people don't account for very much of the population in Boulder, except when college is in session. A lot of the stuff that I've been posting up, the things that I knew that I was going to be harmed for if they didn't have those things, breonnas law introduces it so that cops have to do exactly what it is that I've been fighting for. I would have gotten a fair case if this law had existed in Boulder, along with hundreds of other homeless people, many of whom are now dead. Many of them frozen to death, like Selena Not Afraid, and many other natives up there. Now, there's other places where there's reservations where they kill them differently. It's always exposure to the elements. You drive them out in the middle of nowhere, you drop them off in bad weather. If it's 110 degrees in Arizona and you drop them off in the middle of the desert, they're going to fucking die. If it's 23 degrees below zero and you drop them off without shoes and a jacket, they're going to fucking freeze to death. Now, it is terrible enough that we have so many indigenous people being murdered this way. It's terrible, especially when there are so many wide open places and it is difficult to find them and you don't know where they're at. You know what's even worse than that, though? Homeless people inside of a city, easy to find. When people see them, they can make a phone call, and in many cases they do. When Danny died, By the way, I saved the conversation between me and Anna Alford, and myself and Tony DeStassi, and myself and Kinga Nichols, that shows that, yeah, that situation with Danny was real. They said in the newspaper, Officer Gerhardt, the same one who, seriously, this is the guy who covered up Danny's death and the fact that the police knew he was back there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't send any responders out there at all until 10 o'clock. He had been dead for 4 fucking hours. I had to find my friend dead and be traumatized by that shit. Same thing with Tony. Same thing with Anna. All three of us are fucking traumatized by that shit. And Officer Gerhardt was in charge of that investigation. And you know what? The Daily Camera printed his story as if it was the truth. And when I was assaulted by Officer Whaler Lolatai and they finally let me speak to an officer, he refused to investigate. Every single phone call, everything that a police officer does related to a case, which means if they're on duty, it needs to be recorded. If there's a phone call that they pick up, they need to record that phone call. If they call out to somebody, that needs to be fucking recorded. Who has it worse, black people or homeless people? Homeless people do. Who's got it worse than the homeless? Black homeless people have it worse than just the homeless people. Black Native Americans have it worse than just homeless people. Black immigrants have it worse than just homeless people. King of Nichols, she's afraid to come forward because she's afraid of getting deported. You know what's fucked up about that? She is a United States citizen. She came over here years ago and she did it right. You guys want to talk about, oh, well, it's not all immigrants I hate, it's just the illegal ones. Well, she's not illegal. She is a legal immigrant, and she is afraid of being deported if she comes forward and tells the truth. So Gerhardt is the officer that I'm supposed to talk to, and all of these officers play stupid. They play fucking stupid, and so does dispatch, 911 dispatch. When you call them to tell them that an officer broke the law, you're calling them so that you can make sure that it's documented, because they have to document it during a 911 call. And that is law in most states. That situation in Virginia was not dealt with or handled appropriately, and the bullshit that came after that, yes, that was entirely the Bollingers and the police's fault. No follow-up and fucking spreading rumors and fucking, yeah, those girls were on fucking heroin. And I told the fucking cops that. I'm like, dude, fucking this bullshit started a couple of days ago on my birthday when her mom found her heroin, and that's got nothing to do with me, you know? Like, holy fuck. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, dude, you didn't want to fucking do anything about any of this. You know, you're a racist. You fucking hate black people and so on and so forth. I want you to take a look at my Facebook right now. I've got probably at least half of a dozen. And that's because I don't want to post up a whole bunch of them and bury some important stuff, like Ventus. Ventus is a black man who I knew in Boulder, and he was recently racially profiled and assaulted by the police, but they didn't arrest him. They put him in cuffs and tried to break his fucking arm exactly the same way they tried to break my arm. And this is pretty much the entire state of Colorado does this, but it's not just the state of Colorado. Some of the laws are a little bit different in some of these states, and cops being able to do the things they do in Colorado is a little bit shaky. But then again, those places have loophole laws that allow them to do the same thing in order to torture people to get what they want. And those laws aren't exactly applicable in Colorado because they're illegal. But then there's the fact that it really doesn't matter if it's illegal or not when an officer can turn off their body cam and go, well, it's their word versus mine, and I'm the one who is trusted with a gun and a badge. No, we don't need to work on the honor system when we have police officers in literally every single county where I was harmed. Yeah, there is evidence of their wrongdoing against me, and many of the officers, by name specifically that harmed me, have been involved in multiple other cases. Waylon Lolatai, 6 other cases after me, and he was let go of a department before he assaulted me for assaulting an inmate. Now, by not having sound on their recording devices and refusing to allow the body cameras into my court date, do you know what? I requisitioned those body cameras repeatedly. Repeatedly. Oh, they don't exist. They don't exist. They don't exist. And then Officer Gerhardt, he says that he can't investigate it until next week because, well, there's a bunch of stuff going on with something else. You know what that something else was? Zayd Atkinson. He wasn't even fucking assaulted. I was. But why were they focused on him? Because he was black. And Black Lives Matters was pushing it hard. Hey, we can't let this happen to black people. No, we can't let this happen to anyone. We can't allow this to happen to anyone. Breonna's law helps all of us because it forces officers to wear those body cameras and have them on. We need this nationwide. Some of those posts that I put up, I posted about how $600 worth of body cameras in San Diego, California, decreased their police brutality reporting by 40%. There was 40% less police brutality that people tried to report because of those body cameras. But those body cameras won't prevent those officers from turning them off. Then that allows them to do what they want. That allows them to do many of these things that a lot of y'all have been fighting for. And people keep saying, oh, dude, you just started doing that after Natalie died. No, I didn't. There is proof enough there, going back years, that shows that I have been fighting this fight, fighting for black rights in specific. I still have to acknowledge the fact that Black Lives Matter is a racist name. It's a misleading name, is probably the best way to say it. It's very misleading because it leads people to believe that this is happening exclusively to black people at a much higher rate than everyone else. And actually, it's not. It's happening to foster kids and homeless people at a higher rate than anyone else. How many of these black kids and black adults were homeless before they were locked up? How many? See, that's the thing, is that some dude wanted to go, oh, dude, you know what? I read this thing saying that 40% of black people, or 40% of the jail populations in some places is black people. Yeah, that's true. 40% in Arapahoe County, and that's an area with less than 10% of the black population. Holy shit, yeah, that's fucking pretty askew. That is so totally true, and it is. Boulder County black people are arrested and incarcerated for a crime at 5 times the rate of their white counterparts per capita. Homeless people, it's 346 to 1 versus their housed counterparts. 346 to 1. This according to Darren O'Connor, who is a lawyer in the state of Colorado. Now, he screwed me over because he wanted to make things that he knew were obviously homeless issues and make them into race issues. And I have recordings with Darren O'Connor on this very YouTube that prove that. You know why they had to make it a race issue? Because nobody gives a fuck about the homeless. If they hadn't made it a race issue, nothing would have happened because there would have been no pressure. Now, with that Zayd Atkinson thing, you see what happened there? He got about 60 people to protest there. And that was a good fucking start. Those 60 people protesting. The more people did this shit, The more people were killed by police, the more people were harmed by police, the more they turned off their body cameras and harmful things happened, the more we get to realize this ain't just their fight, this is our fight too. If you're white, this is still your fight. If you're Native American, this is still your fight. If you're male, this is your fight. If you're female, this is your fight. Because although breonnas law was changed specifically because of Black Lives Matters, the reason that was introduced was specifically because Black Lives Matter got together and worked together to make it happen. And guess what? It doesn't have a mention in there at all about making it exclusively for black people. No, it's they have to turn on their cameras no matter what. It's not, okay, well, if it's a mentally ill person, or if it's a white person, or if it's a male, then we don't have to turn it on. We only have to turn it on if it's black people. No, that's not the way that they wrote it. And I told you that they wouldn't. I told you that the reason that we need to pressure these lawmakers and these criminals in office is specifically so that we can affect change like this, and we're doing it. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not making a change too by speaking out. I'm not going to pretend like you guys aren't making a change by speaking out. But you do. Do you know what makes a lot more difference than speaking out? Doing the legwork, writing reports, filling that shit in, making copies of it, sticking up for people when it happens to them too, not just black people. When you see a human rights violation, keep in mind that that could be you, that could be your children, that could be your parents, that could be your brothers, your sisters, your husbands, your wives. You know, there was some KKK folks that were trying to post up all of their crap. And I didn't want to have nothing to do with it. I just basically fucking skimmed over it, clicked it, fucking into the get it off my shit fucking thing. But one of the things that I was looking at is that they have a legitimate point. Now, this is not me agreeing with the KKK's policies, but a lot of the stuff they're pointing out is the same exact stuff that Black Lives Matters is pointing out. Look at all these white kids that this is happening to that nobody cares about. And then Black Lives Matters goes, these white kids that everybody cares about. And then you look at black people are getting a lot of fucking attention. They're getting a lot of positive attention. A lot of people trying to help them. Now, these kids that keep getting pointed out to us who got away with all this shit, they are rich white kids. They're upper middle class white kids. When this shit happens to broke white kids, there is no Black Lives Matters. And where are these fucking broke ass fucking white kids coming from? They're coming from the same goddamn system that's broken. The same broken system that is victimizing African Americans. And you know what? I don't feel that saying African American is correct. Do you know why? Because Haitians aren't from Africa. Aborigines aren't from Africa. Indians aren't from Africa. And I mean Indians from India. And yes, there are people from India who are darker than most of the black people in America. There are people in China, Tibet, look at Tibet and Nepal, okay? Fucking very dark goddamn skin. The reason that I keep posting up all of this stuff that I see from Black Lives Matters, that I see that is wrong, the reason I keep posting that up is because it is wrong. I don't have to agree with the name to agree that what is happening is wrong. It doesn't take much to look at a human being and recognize that what's happening to him is wrong. You look at two dogs, all right? Let's take the human being thing out of it altogether. You see two dogs that are shot in the fucking head. One of them is black and one of them is white. Neither one of those dogs was trying to attack you or whoever it was that shot them. That person backed them into a corner and that dog was backing up. It wasn't being aggressive, but then that person pulled out a taser gun and shot them and then pulled out a stick and was poking them with their nightstick. And when that dog got sick of it after about 30 minutes, it bites back. But it doesn't get to bite back. It doesn't get to. It gets shot in the head. Does it matter what color the fucking dog was? Does it matter what color the fucking dog was that was fucking shot? Same thing with human beings. I am sick and tired of reading all this white stuff about how white people are saying that these black people deserve it. No! You saying that these black people deserve it because of what happened to these white kids? Are you fucking kidding me? You're gonna hate black people because they're speaking out about police killing black people because you're pissed off that police are also killing white people. And then instead of you being pissed off at the police and going at the police for killing white people, you're going after black people for speaking out about their people being killed by the same people that you're complaining about your people being killed by. Meanwhile, we are all people. It don't matter what color the dog is. A good dog is a good dog. A bad dog is a bad dog. It's got nothing to do with the color of their skin, the color of their fur, or the color of their tongue. You know, the scariest person that I ever saw, one of the institutions that I was locked up in, I had never seen somebody who had so many scars on their face. We actually ended up with two guys in an institution that were from different parts of Africa that were very close to each other, and they could tell which tribe these people were from based on their stuff on their face. And that happened at Pine Ridge Job Corps Center. That was the second time that I saw people with all this stuff on their face and all the, from different tribal regions of Africa. But when I was in Job Corps, I was much older. When I was much younger and in the institution, and there was a black kid who came in, and he was much taller than me, and he was very dark. And his gums were black, and his tongue was black. I mean, he was like the darkest person I'd ever seen. But you know what scared me about him? It was all the scars all over the place. I'm like, I don't even like getting poked with a fucking needle. This dude allowed somebody to fucking scar the shit out of his entire face and just sat there and took it. I'm like, holy fuck, that's scary. Yeah, I was scared of that kid. I stayed away from him for probably the first 2 weeks he was there. Did he do anything wrong to me to deserve that? No. He didn't do anything wrong to me for me to be afraid of him. All he did was look the way that he looked, and I was a little kid and I was scared. As I learned about his culture, it was a very different experience. And that was so many years ago, I don't even remember where he was from. I also remember here in Nebraska, we got a bunch of old men. They like to talk about how hard they work. And then they hire 13-year-old girls to pull rye out of their wheat field by hand. And they sit at their tailgates and watch like fucking perverts. Then when it's time for harvesting, they complain about blacks and Mexicans all fucking year. And immigrants. How immigrants are taking all of our jobs. And then they hire on who? Immigrants. Immigrant workers. And most of them won't hire on Mexican crews. They won't hire on a Mexican harvest crew. They would rather spend twice as much to have white South Africans travel all the way to the United States to be with a harvest crew. And then they come through town. They got these really fucking short booty shorts. Like women's booty shorts, but they're on men. And they go through town and they sound very different than everybody else here. You can pick them out. But one thing that I noticed about these South Africans is that nearly all of them, or all of them actually, that I have met are racist as fuck. I mean, they just straight outright hate black people. Is that okay? I don't think so. There are lots of black people I know that if these guys had met them, they'd get along with them. Unless they were the assholes saying the things that they were saying when there was no black people around. I'm not going to pretend that this shit isn't happening. Just because I don't agree with the misrepresentation that it's only happened to black people, or if it's happening to black people more than everyone else. No, per capita, it's happening more to the homeless than anyone else. That guy who wanted to argue with me, saying, hey, well, if 40% of people who are incarcerated are black, and 81% of the people who are incarcerated are homeless, that's 121%. You can't have 121%. You're fucking stupid and ignorant. I'm like, dude, you can be both black and homeless. Are you aware of that? One guy that I was locked up with, he was locked up with because he was living with his baby's mama. And they got into an argument over her relapsing again and still breastfeeding, and she relapsed. And she started fucking throwing a tantrum and throwing shit and breaking stuff all around the house. And he got up and he left. He's like, I am not gonna fucking stay here and let you fucking throw shit at my fucking head. You're gonna fucking kill me. You're throwing hard stuff at me. And he left. And then he got picked up. And he got hauled off to the jail. And he spent 5 months in jail without a court date. Meanwhile, you know what they wrote down? He was homeless. Like, they didn't pick him up immediately. No, he left there. He was not going to live with someone who was going to physically abuse him. So he left and he went homeless. And when they picked him up, they wrote homeless on his thing. And he didn't have the benefit of it being a high-profile case like Miss Natalie in my situation. So although I was given 7 court dates where they didn't do anything, they just did it as a show. Look at all the court dates that we're giving this white boy. And now that gets to add to a statistic of how white boys are treated better than black people. Why? Because that man sat in fucking jail for 5 months without a fucking court date. 5 months he sat in jail in Arapahoe County and never got a fucking court date. He's just sitting there. While he was homeless, he had a job. He had the same job that he had while he was living with his baby mama. But when he was arrested for being homeless. 5 months he sat in jail for being black and homeless in Denver, Colorado. Without a court date. And a lot of these other guys, they were supposed to have pretrial hearings like me. And a lot of them had the same MO with the public pretender's office. Yeah, dude, I'm trying to get my public pretender to do her fucking job or his job, but they're not doing it. I get a different one every time I go to court for a bond hearing. They don't listen to me. They haven't met me. They haven't talked to me. They show up 2 minutes before I have to go up to the podium. They don't actually do their jobs. They do no research. They go up there and they say this little quick fucking speech that every one of them says, The same shit that the last guy said. And I'm like, hey, none of you are looking at evidence. Meanwhile, Pamela Cardi is supposed to be my attorney. She's not showing up. You have any idea how many officers harmed me in the process of all of this? Because there was no group like Black Lives Matters on my side. There was public hatred towards me. All right. Miss Spooks type, that's really true. I had my bone broke in my neck 2 weeks ago when I was drunk on a date by a woman. It would be so ideal if I had a body cam on. She's been charged, though. That's good. I am absolutely 100% against domestic violence. Most domestic violence disputes are from alcohol. Many of these people whose houses that I was at, even though most of them were not actually physically violent with me, the fact is I grew up with alcoholics who were physically violent. I know how it works, and yes, that is traumatic for me. To be around a drunk who is screaming at the top of their lungs at somebody over and over saying the same thing, but they're not hearing what the other person's saying. Now, there are situations where I think that that's okay. If you weren't there for a situation, but you're going to pass judgment on someone that actually harms them, then yeah, that person should be allowed to defend themselves. They should be allowed to show evidence, and they should be allowed to speak. If you weren't fucking there, your opinion doesn't matter. And that's where I'm trying to get all of these witnesses, all of these people, the hundreds of conversations that I recorded with witnesses, that these things should have been in court already. The police should have investigated those things and taken these people's reports. But they never did. They never tried. Instead, they wanted to write slander and bias on my court stuff they could use to automatically make people hate me. And that's pretty messed up. Slander and hearsay, and people are like, Sean, I don't think they'll listen to me. You know, most of the stuff that I have to say, it's basically hearsay. I'm like, dude, it's not hearsay if you're a fucking witness. If you were there for a specific situation, you were there for that specific situation. I'm asking you to be a witness because you were there for that specific situation. Yeah, but Sean, I'm fucking scared of them, and you know, sometimes my words don't come together. I'm like, I know, I got that problem too. If I'm super stressed or they're fucking trying to grill me, and that's why they cannot be allowed to be hostile towards a witness, hostile towards the victim. And you can see, I went from one side of the country to the other, and you can see the hostility from police. And you can also see the difference between how the police treat me when there is somebody there in person and when it's just me. Those body cameras need to be on. But more than that, people have to have access to them. There needs to be oversight that is not the police. You need to be able to go to an outside agency as a disabled person and say, hey, I do need you guys to investigate this before it gets so out of hand that people like Natalie Bollinger get shot in the head and 5 homeless people in Denver get killed for looking like me because I was accused of a crime I didn't commit. So those 5 homeless men in Denver, Colorado were murdered for a crime that was committed by Joseph Michael Lopez, which could have been headed off by police listening to me to fucking begin with. Would help loads of people. You make loads of sense. The law should have been a thing for sure. Absolutely. That's so sad. Being homeless must be hard enough without all that. Nima typed, hi, Sean. How are you doing, brother? I'm doing shitty. I broke the law here a few years ago in order to try to force the police to do their jobs when they wouldn't turn on their body cameras, wouldn't take a report, wouldn't investigate any of the crimes by their officers. And then they outright, here's the problem with having to go to their superiors instead of having a safe place to make this report. That allows their superiors to cover and hide and destroy evidence of their officers' wrongdoing. And they have done that in Colorado. They have done that in Nebraska. They have intentionally destroyed evidence and gone out of their way to make sure that evidence was not seen by the courts. And public pretenders, many of these people that I was locked up with, they're like, dude, I was supposed to have a pre-trial hearing. And fucking, this is after I was fucking complaining about it, because when I was complaining about it, other people were like, dude, they did the same shit to me. Here's what they did. Pamela Cardi, you have a certain amount of days to have your pre-trial hearing. If they don't allow you that pre-trial hearing in that amount of days, they have to drop the charges. They held me for 3 days longer than they should have on that. 3 days passed when they legally should have dropped the charges. What they were doing in that jail was literally torturing me for speaking out against officers. And I've got documentation on here that's written by other inmates even about the harassment, threats, bullying, and shit that I had to go through in those jails. Other inmates, for shit's fucking sake. You know how bad it has to be for other inmates to write a fucking report? And pardon me, I'm passing gas. So Pamela Cardi, right before court. Now, first of all, the evidence in that, it happened in a town called, hold on a second. Now, mind you, you're not allowed to show anything from any other jurisdiction. But where I was arrested was Longmont, and they allowed slander from Amanda Jonas in from Longmont. They allowed slander from many of my predators, such as God, what is that woman's name? The one that Shannon Alvarado exposed. That was supposed to be an autism advocate, and it ended up she was slandering me in these Facebook groups. Kara Johnson Miles. Kara Johnson Miles got from all the way from Texas, a completely different state, got to make a statement. Now then, the situation where I threatened the President of the United States and try to force an outside agency to take a look, because it had happened across so many jurisdictions. Police had used jurisdiction and their ability to ship me out of jurisdiction to prevent me from making a report against them. They'd used that repeatedly. Jurisdiction. These officers are trained how to abuse the system to get away with committing their crimes against the homeless. Mind you, this thing that they give you that they call a chemical restraint. Your message was retracted. I'm sorry, I didn't read it. But you can listen to a whole bunch of those. You can hear a whole bunch of situations where I'm talking with the police and they're like, oh yeah, I had the body camera on, but you have to requisition that with, you have to have a lawyer to get that. And then there's a bunch of other ones, like Amanda Jonas admits that she didn't record that shit. Her body camera was off. And then every time I went in to try to turn them in, see, it's not just the police officers. It's also their co-workers. A public pretender doesn't want to rock the boat with a judge. Do you know why that is? Because she wants her fucking job. She wants her paycheck. If she's not willing to rock the boat, she ain't for shit as an attorney, and she needs to not fucking be there. If you, the taxpayers, are paying her wages for her to do a job, she either needs to do that job or she needs to move on. Because if she's getting paid for a job that she is unable to do, especially when it is as important as the entire future of another human being, something does need to be done. We need breonnas law. We need it nationwide. We need these body cameras required by law on at all times. Whether you're black, white, red, blue, indigo, violet, Muslim, Christian, atheist, Jew, it doesn't matter. You could be Buddhist. You could be a man, you could be a woman, you could be a cross-dresser. It doesn't fucking matter. The body camera needs to be on. You got a phone call. That needs to be on, that needs to be recorded, and that needs to be reviewed by your lawyer. The body cameras, 100% of the time, need to be sent to the DA, and your lawyer does need a copy. Also, you should have access to any and all body camera evidence that you are in, or that includes your situation. Like if they get a call from dispatch, that needs to be recorded. If it's a call to 911, it is recorded. It needs to be turned in too. With my very first public pretender, I told her, hey, I am being abused, not just was abused, I'm still being abused, and I'm going to be dumped out with no vehicle, no place to stay, and now I got a fucked up wrist, and I can't even write. Now, where did I get my wrist x-rayed? At the hospital in Haxton. And police there, across many jurisdictions from where it was that it started. Michael Beard took part in intimidating Candice Bondurant. When I made 911 calls, I was blown off, and you can hear that. You can hear the frustration in my voice after making multiple police phone calls and getting blown off every single time that I talk to them calmly. They give me excuses why they can't do these things. Meanwhile, I have proof that all of the things that they told me they could not do, they did for the Bollingers. They did for Natalie's actual predators. And by refusing to look at evidence against the Bollingers, they broke the law. In addition to that, they did the things that they did, including not actually investigating that shit because they already knew that I was after them. Sheriff Scott DaCosta, the first time I ever spoke to him or even knew that he existed, he let me know in that very first conversation, which was a very kind and nice conversation, that he wasn't going to do a goddamn thing. So I immediately went over to Joel Jay's office. He was the county prosecutor at the time. Nima type, try your best to expose them. Social media is most likely willing to support you when it comes to police brutality. No, they aren't. That's the thing, is that the slander against me when Natalie first died, I was never allowed to defend myself against. I was never allowed to take my accusers to court. I was never allowed to face my accusers. I was never allowed to show evidence. Why? Because the police didn't care. They're like, all right, here's this mentally ill guy who stalked a girl and probably killed her. And then when they realized that I didn't kill her, they had done so much fucked up shit because they thought that I killed her that they went right back to, oh, well, it's okay that we did those things because you stalked her. And I'm like, no. I already proved that I didn't stalk her. I was not allowed to show that in court. Pamela Carty, after it was, first of all, she didn't requisition the evidence in that case. This is the Arapahoe County case when she typed, when Miss Spooks typed, let me find it. They should pay you restitution for that alone. Yes, but the thing is, I don't have public support. I don't have Black Lives Matters fighting for me. I don't have anyone but me actually doing the fighting. I mean, there is recording after recording after recording of people who are supposed to be my caseworkers literally not doing their jobs. The stuff that I have posted up about Jen Beebe, if I try to turn it in, they blow me off. I literally, on the computer that was stolen in Washington State, that I had been trying to show the police in Colorado over a year earlier what was on that. I mean, that's some really fucked up shit that I was forced into homelessness. And then they made fun of me on my court paperwork. They're literally making fun of me, including Amanda Jonas, for the situation that I'm living in. The fact that I'm living in my vehicle and there's a lot of stuff in there, and then there's trash in there with that stuff, and she just outright makes fun of my situation instead of writing down the evidence and writing down the things that I said. Right after Natalie died, people hated me. They didn't care about the police brutality. Matter of fact, the fact that I couldn't even show the police brutality to begin with because I didn't have my computer because Broomfield Police Department had it. And guess what? They never returned it. Brandon Ratner is a witness that we went down there to try to get it. I went down there a couple of times to go try to get it. My very first public pretender in Boulder was supposed to help me get it back. I made multiple calls to the police officer who was supposed to sign it off. He said, well, you got to talk to Property and Evidence. Property and Evidence said I had to talk to him. I just called him. Property Evidence said they needed him to sign off on it. He said he needed Property and Evidence to sign on it. Then he told me that Joseph Michael Lopez, the guy who actually killed Natalie Bollinger, that his lawyer had to sign off on it. And then I called my public pretender in Boulder and I said, hey, this is what they're telling me. She called them up and then she calls me back and she says, well, they're wanting to give it back to you, but they have to wait on Joseph Michael Lopez's attorney to sign off for it. So I'm like, all right. They were supposed to bring that to me the very next day. In specific, Detective Jai Rogers of Adams County was supposed to bring me that. He asked me to go to Boulder and told me that he would bring that to me the very next day, even if it was all the way to Boulder. Now, after asking me to go to Boulder and telling me that he would bring it all the way to Boulder, and I go to Boulder, and then they have the Boulder cops harass me, threaten me, intimidate me, separate me from all of the people who are trying to help. And when I'm being assaulted and they're showing up to harass me and I'm trying to tell them about the assaults, they're not giving a shit. When I had that fucking breakdown on the 6th, that was over the police doing bullshit that I am used to, things that I reported on for years and years. If you look at my Facebook right now, matter of fact, I'm going to click on my Facebook so that you guys can find it. I want you to look at the fact that I have been speaking out about this for a lot of fucking years, well before Natalie was ever killed. All right. Scroll down a little bit. Maybe if I put this button, I told it to reload because there's a lot of stuff that I was posting, and I think I had this tab open before I started posting them. So let's see. And I'll click a link. Anyway, after there were quite a few days past when I was supposed to have my pretrial hearing, my public pretender hadn't requisitioned that evidence. Now, that fire took place in a town called, it starts with an E. I'm going to actually type in, here's one from July 13th, 2016. Here, I'll actually scroll back. I shared some stuff that's really old that they just posted it up as 58 minutes ago, but it's not actually showing that I posted it before. The ones that I typed a bunch of stuff myself that it allowed on there, it did allow that on. Well, I did take screenshots of some of this, so that might actually work. I'm gonna have to go through and figure out what's going on with my Facebook because that just ain't right. But anyway, getting back to Pamela Carty, the day that we were supposed to have my pretrial, mind you, it's already 3 days late for the pretrial, so they should have dropped my charges. My public pretender has not requisitioned the evidence from Sheridan Police Department. Meanwhile, Sheridan Police Department has stolen evidence that I was trying to show about the situation that was going on in Longmont and in Boulder, because I was in Boulder County when I was arrested, and I told them where I was going specifically so that I would be easy to find. And then because the people who were trying to manipulate myself and manipulate the police and manipulate the Bollingers, one of these fucking wingnuts, what was her name? Kara Johnson Miles, and she wasn't the only one who was playing all three of us. There was also Kara or Cara Rogers, aka Karamia, right at the very beginning. And then there was Layla Missy Johnson, aka Layla Dunan, aka Layla Missy, her mom lady. It's a very confusing thing. Basically, she made a fake profile, used somebody else's picture, and pretended to be somebody that she wasn't. And then she started manufacturing stuff to try to make other people look like they were doing things that they weren't. And it was just a very fucked up, fucking with my head thing. And, you know, that's not something that should be allowed to happen. I was made a target because of crimes that I didn't commit and was never allowed to show evidence in. I was assumed guilty, and it wasn't guilty until proven innocent because I was never allowed to prove my innocence. My guilt was assumed, and that was it. So, right before I've got court, one of her coworkers comes in and says that she's been in an accident. I find out later that this was an outright lie. They tell me that she was in an accident and that I will have a different public pretender. And the different public pretender that I get, he says, all right, well, first of all, they never tell me at any point in time that the decision that they are trying to pressure me into making, they don't tell me the consequences of doing that. He tells me that they can't get the evidence, they can't requisition the evidence in time, that he hasn't had time to review any of the evidence in my case, and he's not going to, that they either I have to plead guilty or take a plea deal in this situation, or I need to sign this piece of paper that makes it legal that they didn't do their jobs. Now, one of the people that I was locked up in there, he was a civil rights attorney. His name was, I believe it was Brian, but I'm not for sure. One of the inmates, he used to play for the Colorado Kings, and his name is, hold on a second. I'm trying to remember it because I know that I have it on here, and I also know I have the piece of paper that I put in the video. It's actually up at the apartment. Shit, I'm trying to remember. Anyway, this guy tells me, he says, dude, first of all, you need to draw up paperwork right now, and I will help you before I leave, because he was due to leave in, I don't know, like a month or two after me. And we didn't know how long I was going to be there. And he was helping out a lot of other people, and he had helped a lot of people with their cases and helped them get out of there. And by the way, this civil rights attorney happened to be a black man. And the basketball player for the Colorado Kings happened to be a black man. And see, those guys understood the violation of my rights and the vision of solidarity. When bad stuff was happening to them, they knew that I was going to speak out. Now, I do have a camera so that I can hold it and actually show you the stuff that I type, but I can't find it currently, and the last time that I tried it, it was blurry as fuck. I've tried it a couple times since then. It's fucking blurry as fuck. I suppose I should get back to you guys in breonnas law. Let me see. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I posted a long time ago that now it just says 1 hour ago. But if I got it. Hang on file. And we'll go to posts, and we will go to posted from me, Chelsea, January 23rd, 2017, January 28th, 2017, December 24th, 2018. I reshared it, of course. August 14th, 2017. Dr. King, nonviolence is the most powerful weapon. I posted this a lot. I've been posting this for quite a few years. We'll pick this one from January 23rd. I press share now public. Now I'm going to take a screenshot of this just so you can see that I posted it on January 23rd, 2017. That's something that I can definitely do with my phone right now, this very moment, and I can show it to you that way. There's a lot of different ways of doing stuff. Some of them are a pain in the butt, and some of them are, well, come on, don't be blurry on me. It's trying to focus on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s face, and in doing so, it keeps. Come on, focus. Oh, jeez. What a pain in the ass. All right. Now let's take a look at this picture. This is Dr. King, Nonviolence is the Most Powerful Weapon, January 23rd, 2017. I'm going to click over here to the live streaming. I'll probably see a lot of comments that I've missed because I've been away. Come on, show it before it gets all blurry. See, January 2017. This ain't a new fight for me. This body camera thing, it ain't a new fight for me. I'm going to type up the word body cam. Here's one from July 13th, 2016. We lost a lot of people, not just this year, but every year. I'll read it and then I'll take a picture and show it to you. I have memories of hundreds of people who are not with us anymore. The laws and their enforcers are on a rampage, going after good and decent people and leaving us with the meth heads. Here in Chapel, it's obvious that meth isn't treated any different than it is in Colorado. In Colorado, they ignore meth. In Chapel, they ignore meth. With officers soon to be forced to wear body cams, I was so hoping, and here we are still fighting this. This is before Natalie was killed. I had seen too many people railroaded and locked up for crimes that were either never committed or were committed by someone else. And in many of these cases, you had 20 or 30 people speaking up for some of these people going, hey, man, he didn't do that. But they took him to court and they railroaded him anyway. Refused to allow any other witnesses in. They tell the witnesses, well, he has to make the report himself. And when he goes in to make the report himself, he's arrested. But then again, everybody else who tried to go in and make a report, they're rounded up within 24 hours. They're in jail too. You don't speak out against police. And that's why rule number one when you're homeless is you never talk to police. All right, let's see. With officers soon to be forced to wear body cams, train. It's important that those body cams show criminals. So until that happens, they will try to provide as bleak a picture as possible. The killing needs to stop, and the police need to be punished for their crimes against humanity. Over half the cops in Boulder should be in prison, and the cops here in Chapel are either completely inept or they are criminally negligent. The sheriff here was recently in the news for harassing people with Colorado license plates trying to find weed. Chapel, Nebraska is even famous in Denver for its meth. Get that? Small town America, famous for providing a major city with meth. I'm so glad we have pot police. What a waste of oxygen. Christopher Weaver. He's somebody who's talked about between myself and a few people. Christopher Weaver on this post, he typed, "So if we just become meth heads, the cops will leave us alone." He typed, "Let's do it, Sean. Let's be real meth heads." He typed, "Mr. Weaver," Christopher Weaver, of course. This is Ogre. He types, "Mr. Weaver, is that the devil's lettuce you got there?" "Why, no, officer, it's just some meth." "Oh, okay, carry on." I typed, "It's more likely that they'll wait until body cams are mandatory. Then, while the jails are full, go out and pretend we need more prisons and jails like they've been pushing the last decade. If the meth heads are locked up before they're forced to wear body cams, all their body cams will show is a few drunks and a hippie." He typed, "Damn hippies." See, a lot of these people that ditched me after Natalie died, there are certain things that when you say it about a person, nobody wants to stick up for them because they're afraid of being punished. Now I'm going to take a picture of this for y'all too. So if you so choose, you can freeze frame it, and read it yourself. Let's see if we can turn it sideways. I don't know if it will. Oh God, my battery is almost dead. Well, all right. If we do it this way, I need to click back over to this so I can see, because sometimes it doesn't. And if I have to turn it to a different angle or something, oh, come on. All right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to right click. Nope, that didn't work. Well, I'm going to hit the share button. Hopefully that'll work. Share now public. When I was looking through these, I mean, I was running through. I started scrolling, and it never came to the end of it. I don't know how many times I typed about body cameras and police brutality and how sick Boulder is. But I mean, this is from January 13th, 2016. This is well before Natalie was killed. This is well before the police. When I told on the police for doing these things to others, I did so on my Facebook. I did so that people would be aware that the police have been doing this, that it's been going on for a long time, that I have been recording it and saving evidence for a long time. The problem is getting somebody to listen when you're homeless, when you're male, when you're called mentally ill. When you have no money, they know they can get away with it. Let's see. We'll scroll back through this. March 14th, 2015. This should be illegal. Not having the body cameras, but turning them off. 75%. That means 3 out of 4 cops in Denver are actually pork rinds. It's from the Free Thought Project. It says 75% of Denver cops aren't turning on body cams in use of force contacts. This is why. And well, hopefully it'll actually show you this one and actually focus. I'm trying my best to make it work. All right. See, I'm not good with computers. I'm trying to show this the best that I can. Um, uh, that didn't work. All right, is this it? Uh, all right. Well, I'm gonna try to show you anyway. I don't know how to turn the picture sideways. I was thinking if I did it like this and shook it a little bit, it would do that, but it's not gonna. Um, maybe this. No. Um, maybe. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. It says copy text from image. I don't know what that is. That's not even what I was trying to do. But here's the post. Fucking what? Make it an angle that people can see it. If I can get it to turn sideways, then it would work. But I can't get it to do that. You see, it's not that I don't want to show people. It's that I am fucking. Let me see. No, that's to crop it. Um, no. All right, that'll work. All right. Hopefully it'll work. See, it takes me a while to figure this stuff out. God, why won't it? Fucking don't put a big goddamn shiny in the. You see, I'm trying fucking hard. I just when I say I need help in person, I mean I need help in person. That's the thing about all of this. It's not that I'm not trying. It's that I don't have help. No matter how many times people tell me to do stuff, it's not going to give me the ability to do it. And no matter how many times people tell me, oh, you just need to go in and talk to the police, I can't say 10 million times more that I've fucking tried. All right, let's see what the comments say, I guess. Hi, Sean. How are you doing, brother? Try your best to expose them. Social media is most likely willing to support you when it comes to police brutality. No, no, not when you've been framed the way that I was. It's not like it was with Zayd Atkinson, where as soon as that shit happened, people fucking had his back, and Black Lives Matters went, "We're not going to tolerate this." It's not like Zayd Atkinson, where he was harassed for looking homeless and assumed homelessness, just like Zayd Atkinson, Samuel Leon Lawrence IV had to go through that exact same thing. Michelle Rodriguez had to go through that exact same thing. What do those three people have in common? All three of them are minorities. All three of them are in housing, or all three of them have a roof over their head. Because I don't know that Zayd Atkinson or Samuel Leon Lawrence IV are actually in what. When you say housing, a lot of people assume government housing. Michelle Rodriguez is in government housing. But out of the seven people who Waylon Lolatai was who he assaulted, the only people that they ever made a fucking stink about were the ones who were black. Meanwhile, were minorities. Meanwhile, this officer is darker than all of these people. He's darker than Samuel Leon Lawrence IV, who said he was profiled, and he was profiled because they thought he was homeless, not because thought he was black. Same thing with Zaid Atkinson. Now, that's not saying that black people aren't targeted. Yeah, if you're black and homeless, then you will get it worse. Absolutely. But the fact is, to completely ignore the major issue there, which is that this man was illegally profiled and harmed, and they didn't even assault him. Sammy Leon Lawrence IV was assaulted. Michelle Rodriguez was assaulted. Michelle Rodriguez won her case too, by the way. They should pay you restitution for that alone. And you're right. I need a lawyer. I need help getting a lawyer. I need help getting an advocate who, my autism advocate, she lives in North Platte. That's about 3 hours away, by vehicle. And no, there isn't a special bus that goes out there. You gotta basically pay for a fucking Greyhound, which you gotta go down to Colorado to even hop on that fucking bus, and it's probably Aero Lines, not Greyhound. And then it'll drive you to North Platte. I can't go to Colorado. I have warrants there for defending myself and for trying to show evidence. I have warrants out for my arrest because police were allowed to turn off their body cameras. I have warrants out for my arrest because I had to defend myself. Pamela Cardi not doing her job. Not only did she not show up for that court date where, first of all, the crime wasn't committed in Sheridan. Sheridan Police Department had no business being involved in that at all. It should have been Inglewood Police Department because Ken Wilson and Leah Plunkett live at 3395 South Zuni, Inglewood, Colorado. Type up their address. Tell me if that is in Sheridan's jurisdiction. It's not. These people took advantage of my disabilities and took advantage of the fact that I have an income from disability, or did at the time. Since Natalie died, I haven't had that income. That income was taken away from me as soon as Natalie died. And before Natalie died, it had been stolen. I didn't even know I was supposed to have court with Natalie on the 22nd of December. And I didn't get paid my disability money until the 23rd of December. Ken and Leah hadn't paid me back like they were supposed to. I didn't have a working vehicle anymore. I had no way to get my stuff back to Chapel, Nebraska. And I had to give them extra money so that I could stay there, so that my rent would be paid up a few months in advance, so that I could save up money to buy Megan Christie's house in Chapel, Nebraska for $7,000, so that I could use it for helping to rescue people, many of them addicts, because it's hard to get off the fucking drugs. It really is when you're stuck around the same people. When Tim Beeson first got a hold of me and started threatening me, I was more afraid of what he would do to Natalie than what he'd do to me. This is a man with an actual history of actually harming her. And this guy's calling me up to tell me he's going to fucking kill me. And then if you've listened to that Sword and Scale episodes 109 and 110, you realize that the predators, Mike Boudet protected the predators, went out of his way to cast doubt on all of the evidence that I had and to outright block me from his site so that I couldn't show any more evidence. And tried to make it out as if Tim Beeson was some sort of really super good guy. He's fucking not. The messages between me and Natalie, in her own words, show that's not fucking right. Her own words show that her dad is a fucking sicko child molesting fuck who is also violent. Anything I can do? That one, this one typed enters and typed again, hi Sean, I hope you're well. Blake Helmsley typed turn screen rotation on. I was trying to find it. There's just There's like 8 different options on there that you click on, and each one of them has a list of options, and then you go through that, and the ones you think it is, you click on that, and then that's not actually the one that it actually does it, and then you're going, all right, what the hell am I doing? Like, it just had a grid layout, and as I was trying to rotate it, it was making the picture bigger. It was rotating it, but it was making it bigger, and the grid thing just stayed the same. And I'm like, no, that'll just take a picture of a tiny portion in the center. um, Put your finger on top and drag down. You'll see recent notifications. Above it, there's a button that says screen rotation. Press it. We know you were trying. Don't worry. Can't you sue if you were harassed by the news station or anything? Yes, I can, but the problem is that I was made homeless. Most of my witnesses, many of them are dead. Okay, I want to let you know that there are a lot of dead people. A lot of my key witnesses are dead. Anna Hunka, she's dead. Rory Jeffson, he's dead. Janine Barrett, she's dead. These people are dead. I don't know how to explain to you or express to you that these people are dead. They're dead people. It's a white male. They're dead. They're all dead. They're fucking dead. They are fucking dead. I don't know how many times I can say they're dead, and I know that you are new to this, and you, but they're dead. Roy Jeffson was going to help me get a case against the sheriff's department here, and he's dead. Blake Helmsley, do you still talk to your family? No, I don't. I would love to. I would love to have that availability. I would love to have that ability. I would love to be able to go back and see my brother. I haven't been able to go back and visit with my brother and just hang out, talk shit, and maybe, for God's sake, smoke a bowl of marijuana. I mean, seriously, if you guys want to fucking go off on all this other shit, yeah, it would be nice to smoke a bowl with my brother, sit back, relax, and fucking reminisce. Mostly because my older brother hangs out in public, and it's a public that's fucking, most of them got PTSD. And it's difficult for somebody with PTSD to be around other people with PTSD who are triggered. When you're stoned, it helps. But I hate being stoned. So I'd rather hang out with my brother sober. I'd rather hang out with him one-on-one. I've seen my older brother twice since Natalie was killed. One of them was about a week after, almost a week after Natalie was killed. I was in Boulder, and I got to talk to him for a few minutes. The other time was when I got to talk to him at my grandma's funeral. Both of those times, Alicia Bollinger was actively pursuing me and pulling head games and all sorts of other fucked up shit. She was with several of the people who were threatening my life and threatening to kill me while they were doing that. And no matter how much evidence I saved, I couldn't get the police to look at it. No matter what, when they use the term mentally ill, you have to have someone else there. You have to have a power of attorney, and I have not had that. You need to have a caseworker who will actually protect your rights and fight for your rights instead of saying, I can't, I can't, I can't. My hands are tied. No, your hands aren't tied. You're holding onto the rope, and people's necks are dangling at the other end. Let's see. I'm going to show you ones that I know will show up. I'm going to show you my messages between me and my public defender here. A. Elmshauser. I don't want to lighten the mood. I want to get this battle done and over with. I want to get our rights back so that I can get my life back too. I'll never be able to get back to the life that I had, never. But the least I can do is fight for our rights. Fun childhood stories? No, I don't have very many of those. In order to have fun childhood stories, you have to have a childhood. All right. Um, see, it says yesterday, he typed, I tried calling, but your voicemail is full. The county attorney has dismissed your case. Not sure why, as I was planning to schedule the trial date tomorrow. That's the same thing that he did last time. Whenever I push it to the point where they're going to set up a fucking trial, these guys fucking drop the charges. If they can't pressure me into pleading guilty because they won't allow evidence in, and I keep on pushing, and I keep on pushing, they drop the charges against me because if this does go to court, then I can show this evidence against these officers. Now, they keep trying to say that it's unrelated. I got a question for you. If you are being raped and you smack the dude who's raping you with whatever it is that you can grab in arm's reach, and you smack him over the head so that you can run away, and you go to the police, and the police charge you with assault, and you go to court and your public pretender says you're not allowed to bring up the fact that you were being raped. Whoa, hold on a second. Whoa, the fuck, hold on a second. Don't tell me that's unrelated. It is. Don't tell me that I'm not allowed to show anything that's even in that jurisdiction. Don't tell me that I'm not allowed to show anything that's not in that jurisdiction and then allow other people from other jurisdictions to slander me and allow that slander into my courtroom, but not actual evidence. Pamela Cardi also outright lied to me and told me that they had taken care of the warrants. See, if you are incarcerated, you cannot get a failure to appear warrant. You cannot do it. You can't fail to appear because you are incarcerated. Pamela Cardi, her job is to let these people know that I'm incarcerated. And she promised me that she was going to do that. But she spent all of her time, instead of getting the information that she needed and finding out about my case, she was busy trying to send me into a panic attack. And when I threatened to sue her, she threatened to have me thrown in a fucking loony bin. That's an abuse of power. From that moment on, she should have not been my attorney. When I tried to bring that up in court, the judge wouldn't allow me to do that. She said, you get whoever was assigned to you. At that point, according to at least 3 attorneys in Colorado, at least 3 of them, because I talked to a lot of them, and a lot of them wouldn't even listen to me. They're like, all right, well, you've got the mentally ill tag. You have to have a guardian. You have to have a power of attorney. You have to have that before we can do anything. So by denying me that, it's just abuse. I didn't know that could happen. I thought they would just say self-defense. Well, here's the thing. When somebody is in there in the courtroom with you, they can bear witness to what's going on. If there's nobody with you, the courts can do whatever they want. Matter of fact, the weird thing about the court date that I had on the 15th of October is that there was nobody else in the courtroom. It was me, the judge, the public pretender, Pamela Cardi, and the, what do you call it, the prosecutor. And that was it. And then on the 16th or the 17th, Pamela Cardi and one of her bosses came to coach me on what lies to say in order to get released from jail. They kept on, when I told them, hey, that's not the truth, though. This is what really happened. And Pamela Cardi kept on saying things to me like, well, we know that's the truth. We know you got screwed. We know this, we know that. But if you want to be able to go out there and you want to be able to fight these guys in court, you can't do that from in here. And you know this. So this is what you need to do. When she asks you this is what you say. When she asks you that, that's what you say. When she asks if I did my job, you need to say yes. And I'm like, but I told her last time, I told her just 2 days ago, I told that lawyer that I wanted to fire you. She is not going to believe me if I say that. Because 2 days ago I tried to fire you. She says, no, we've done this before. Wait, hold on a second. They have done this before. All right. Now, keep in mind, this is a county that has a 97% conviction rate. Now, we're not talking about 97% conviction rate because people are actually guilty. We're talking about 97% of the people who go in there plead guilty because they are tortured into it. That's what happens when you're homeless. It doesn't matter if you're black and homeless or if you're white and homeless. If they pick you up, you have no rights. They put you in there. They do what they want, and they collect money from the taxpayers to do this. And then they treat you like you're guilty the whole time that you're in there. That guy who was in there for 5 months without a court date, yeah, they treated him like he was guilty every fucking day. When you try to turn in police officers, though, that's where most of these inmates were like, dude, you fucking stood up to the cops? Holy fuck, you're either a special kind of stupid or you got balls of steel. When they did the things that they were doing me to other inmates, and I spoke up, they always transferred me. Always. They're like, well, you made enemies in that pod. I'm like, yeah, the fucking deputies. The thing is, it doesn't matter which pod the deputies are in. You guys fucking rotate like fucking musical chairs. I mean, shit. You guys are all friends with each other. You all work with each other. When I try to turn in one of you to another one of you, the other one of you says that he can't, or says that there's a billion and one other things they can't do. There are no recording devices in the jail. Are you kidding me? Officer Davis can prove that one wrong. He was one of the sergeants that was supposed to come talk to me about the abuse I was enduring in the jail. Fucking thing is landing in my goddamn head. I hate bugs. Nebraska is fucking bug country. I want you guys to push breonnas law. I want you guys to push for that nationwide. I want you to push for it everywhere. And not just because it has to do with no-knock warrants, but also because it requires police to have their body cameras on both before and after an incident, as well as during. And they're not allowed to turn it off. And that is what I've been after for years, and my posts prove that. Let's see. One thing that it irritates me is how can a child predator get like 5 years, but a dude with some drugs get like 20 years? You know what, OG? G? There's in Larimer County. That's where I was sent to Larimer County because it was outside of Boulder County. So it was out of jurisdiction for me to turn in Officer Whale and Lolatai. And when they transferred me there, it was specifically because I was trying to turn in Whale and Lolatai for his assault. Because they were able to use that right there to cover up their crimes, to cover up Officer Whale and Lolatai's crimes. He was able to harm 6 more people after me. Clearview, the things that they did to me for trying to get a police officer there so that I could turn in what they were doing, as well as what Officer Whale and Lolatai did. Well, they injected me with drugs and other things that they did illegally that Tony Kovaleski did a report on Denver 7 about. But he didn't do a report on Denver 7 about me, even though I had spoken up months before he even had a thought to do so. I can identify a bunch of the people in that video who are staff members. Several of those people who are in that video, you can see on my YouTube. They killed 2 people after I spoke out. Why did those 2 people die? Because they did nothing when I spoke out, because they didn't have to. All they had to do was call me mentally ill, and they could do whatever the fuck they want. If I hadn't been slandered by the news and by the media, Tybra Hatay would be alive today. Breonna's law needs to be enacted. I know a lot of people are like, well, dude, fucking, I don't like Black Lives Matters. I don't like this and I don't like that. And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter if you like them or not. This law is for all of us. This law isn't just for black people. So even if you're a racist who hates black people, this law will still help you if your rights are violated. And isn't that what you make all these excuses for your racism about anyway? That your rights as a human being are violated because of special rights for others? Well, this isn't a special right for others. This is a protection for us, our rights. Whether you're black, white, it don't matter. Whether you hate all black people or hate all white people, it doesn't matter. This law will still help us. If you love everyone, it will still help us. When I was in Larimer County, there was a guy who was in the military. He was in there because he molested a 6-year-old boy. They let him walk right out of the courtroom, slap on the wrist, not even a day in jail. And he molested a 6-year-old boy. And you guys want to go, oh, well, we need to focus on these people and we need to focus on those people. Whenever I talk about how this happens to boys, people blow me off. Women especially. Oh, dude, that stuff doesn't happen to men. You know, we need to focus on women because this happens more to women. Does that make it any less traumatic for the men who had to go through it? You need to go to the back of the bus because it doesn't happen as often to men. You need to go to the back of the bus because it doesn't happen as often. You know what? Wrong is wrong. Like that example I made earlier. Does it matter if it's a black dog or a white dog? Also, why don't they get cold cases and do DNA testing on them? I know they do it already because they don't do it for all cases or ones with some type of DNA evidence. Here's the thing. They don't even test most DNA evidence. Most rape kits never get tested. Never. A lot of rapists get away with it because they just never test the rape kits. The county doesn't want to pay to test the rape kits. They have no problems paying to incarcerate innocent people. They have no problems incarcerating so many innocent people that they can make more prisons and demand money for more prisons, more taxpayer funds that used to go to helping out battered and domestic women or domestic assault victims and battered women and battered children. All of those resources are gone. Those women, when they end up in that situation now, that if they had ended up in the 80s, they would have gone to a battered women's shelter that would have actually helped them out. If that happens to them today, they end up homeless and on the streets. The number one reason for women to be homeless on the streets is fleeing domestic violence. Write that down. Let's see. I honestly think all lives matter, but when they do Black Lives Matter and we write All Lives Matter, it's technically a protest to their protest. It absolutely is. Black Lives Matter, the name itself is racist, and the name itself is dismissive of everyone else going through it, pretending that it's happened to you because you're black. You know what? Many of these things happen to people who are not black. The same exact things. I am not going to pretend that it's not happening to black people. And I'm not going to pretend like in a lot of these cases it's not happening specifically because they're black. But I will not prescribe to the belief that just because it doesn't happen to somebody else as often, or just because you assume that it doesn't happen to them as often, that we should ignore them as well. No, this fight would have been over a long time ago if everyone would have gotten together. Let's see. Lucas Michael typed, "Hi Sean, woke up because I got a notification for this stream. Yeah, everyone matters." And OGG typed, "I think so too, Lucas." And that is the way that I feel. Everyone does matter. Do Black Lives matter? Yes. When I say all lives matter, I'm not saying that Black lives don't matter. I'm trying to impress upon you that there are many people who are not black going through it. We are on your side because we went through it. I am on your side because I went through it. I am on Ventus's side, first of all, because I know him. It has nothing to do with the color of his skin. It has to do with the content of his character. This man was profiled by Denver Police Department, who came to his house and assaulted him for a crime that was committed by a white man who speaks Ukrainian. They forced their way into his house without a warrant and assaulted him. And you know what he had to say about it? He called it an almost. No, you were assaulted by fucking cops. Lucas Michael type, I'm going to head off to sleep again. Have a good night, Sean. You have a good night too, Lucas Michael. Good night, y'all. Be safe. And remember, these are your rights too. Even if you're in the KKK, these are your rights. Even if you're black, these are your rights. Even if you're Jewish or Hebrew or Mesopotamian, if you're within the United States borders, breonnas law is going to change our lives for the better. If you have problems with a police officer who has decided that he doesn't like you for whatever reason, that officer now cannot turn off his body camera and beat the fuck out of you or threaten to kill you or try to intimidate you into leaving town. Isn't that great? The problem is it only works in Texas right now. We need to pass this nationwide. breonnas law, it's not just a no-knock warrant law, it's also a body camera law.